for joining us for the first episode of our second season of Weatherwise. I'm Liam Healy.
And I'm Christine Gregory.
And this semester's show, we've made a few changes to how the show will go down.
Yes, we did. So for our second season, we've decided to put in a Weather Buster segment instead of our usual weather highlights. But don't worry, we still will be tackling all of your Twitter questions, debunking weather myths, and of course, the Weatherwise topic of the week.
And we've got a lot of new topics we're excited to share with you. Don't go away. Weatherwise is just getting started. Christine, it's great to be back for our second season. I'm beyond excited to see what we're going to do this year.
I am also very excited. We've got a lot of weather topics already lined up to do for the semester, and I'm really excited.
I got some great Twitter questions tonight too, but first, a very interesting thing. Let's talk a little bit about maybe what our weather myth's going to be later. Give them a little tease here.
All right. So a little bit about our weather myth. You know, it's winter time. Some things you don't really think about. We will be debunking the weather myth. Do you get sunburned in the winter time? Now, us pale folks like you and I, you know, we get sunburned quite often. So you know.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult season out there. There's not sunny, but you still walk out, you get sunburned. And coming up later, we're talking Great Lakes weather influences for our weather topic of the week. But first, let's start off with our first block here.
Yes, we're starting off with hashtag #AskAmet, and joining us on set tonight is Dan Maslowski.
Dan, what do the people want to know?
Well, we have a lot going on, and one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was our first question, which comes from Instagram, and it's Garrett Hossman, who asked, if hot air rises, why is it hotter towards the ground and colder as you go up in the atmosphere? Now, to tackle this question, let's take a look at what happens when air rises. So, at the surface, the ground is heated up by the sun during the day. When the ground heats up, it starts to heat the air above it because that air is in contact with the warm surface. Now, to better illustrate this, we're going to look at a diagram. The air that is heated up at the ground starts to rise and cool and expand. Now, the air above the ground heats up as it starts to rise because it's less dense than the cooler air surrounding it. This is where things get a little bit tricky. At this phase, the air moves into areas of lower pressure because as it goes up, there are less air molecules on top of it, which would weigh it down. This allows the air to expand and cool as it rises further up into the atmosphere. Eventually, it stops rising once it's cooler than the surrounding air. This expanding and cooling effect is why the air above us gets colder and colder, even though it starts as hot air when it rises above us. Now, for our next Twitter question, it comes from Alex Bielfeld in Elmira. He asks us, does snow fire hose exist? Now, to tackle this, we first need to look at where it originated with a CBS News tweet that says a rare meteorological phenomenon called a snow fire hose pumps 3 to 4 feet of snow in upstate New York. Now, for starters, snow fire hose is not a legitimate term used by meteorologists. The American Meteorological Society has a glossary of terms that are used to describe meteorological events and processes, and snow fire hose is not in there. The snow event that occurred last week is called a lake effect snowband. Now, lake effect snowbands could bring a lot of snow in one area if it's just pumping snow into one specific area at a time. Now, for some of these events with lake effect snow, they could oscillate back and forth, which kind of looks like a fire hose, and that's probably where CBS got their idea to name it a fire hose. So the CBS tweet also mentioned that this is a rare meteorological phenomenon, but lake effect is actually quite common, and it's not just limited to snow. You can get lake effect rain as well if conditions are favorable for it. And that's all we have for now.
Well, Dan, that was very interesting because this is an issue we run into a lot in the meteorological world, is the media coming up with these ridiculous terms for these weather things, such as the polar vortex is another classic example of one of these issues that we constantly run into.
That's true. And
Christine, can you think of any?
I really can't at the moment. But fire hose, I've definitely seen quite often. And did you see that tweet when it actually went
I
out?
did. I saw
I
Twitter
saw it.
erupt into a fury.
Yeah,
Weather
they
Twitter is something
really
you do
did.
not want to mess with.
They will shoot you down and correct you like there's no tomorrow.
There was at least 50 different replies to that tweet with ridiculous gifs that all had different reactions to it. Everyone from meteorologists to just weather
Yeah.
enthusiasts, just angry.
I'm pretty
about,
sure even Ginger Z replied to one of those tweets.
Yep, Ginger Z even got into it. So coming up after the break, me and Christine are gonna be breaking down some of our weather myths from the movies this time.
Yes.
That's our newest segment. We'll be right back. We'll pick up that remote. Welcome back from the break. It's time for our newest segment, Weather Busters.
This week in our new segment, Weather Busters, we are debunking a scene from the 2013 DC entertainment movie Man of Steel. In the following clip, we see Pa Kent slowly get taken away by a tornado. Let's have a look.
Mom, stay here.
All right, so that clip was pretty dramatic, and for starters, wind speeds in a tornado can be as high as around 300 miles per hour, even in the most violent tornadoes. And I don't know what the exact strength or what kind of damage that tornado was doing, but it looked like it could definitely be potentially an EF4 or greater. And with wind speeds that high, automobiles would become airborne, rip homes to shreds, turn other flying debris into literal missiles, and that guy was literally just standing directly next to the tornado, perfectly unfazed.
Yeah, and another point we want to be very clear about, when in a tornado situation, especially on an interstate, you don't want to be anywhere near an underpass, or really you don't want to be anywhere close to the tornado. It's definitely not physically possible to be standing straight up like he is that close to a roaring tornado. And again, hiding under an overpass bridge is one of the most dangerous things you can do. The wind flow under the bridge is going to be enhanced as the winds get smushed into a smaller space. So all those missiles we just talked about are going to be going even faster, if you can believe it, than possibly 300 miles an hour in some of the strongest tornado winds we've ever recorded.
Yes. So bottom line, that was very unrealistic the way that played out in that scene, and just not.
Honestly, though, great movie overall. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm a big Superman fan.
You know, I
I've
haven't
watched
seen
all
it.
of them, like
have
even
not
like the
seen
old ones with Christopher Reeves and stuff.
All right.
Great movies. Poor weather department. They need.
They need to get
I
some
will
scientists on that.
come and I will be your weather guru.
Yeah, like
the
we're-
CEO of the
Where
sky
was the
for
consulting
Warner
going
Brothers
on
Pictures.
when they
Hire
were
me.
doing this film? Like that's. I
No
get
one
it.
ever consults.
I get it. It's for the film and the drama and the whatever, but gotta stick to the
Yeah,
science.
just wait
here.
till the next one we do. We're gonna be even angrier about it.
Yes, we will.
So that's all we have for right now, though. So we're going to move on to our latest weather news. This is one of our new segments that we got coming in.
Yes. So in another news segment, we are bringing to Weatherwise, we have weather news. So let's take a look at what is going on in the country with weather. Ice. These waterfront homes are on Lake Erie in Hamburg, and all of this ice is the result of 2 straight days of gale force winds and freezing temperatures. Some people on social media are saying that it looks like a scene out of Narnia.
A powerful lake effect snow event walloped the region late last week. It disrupted travel and schools for 3 days, with the State University of New York at Oswego starting Thursday afternoon and lasting into Friday. The lake effect event brought winds of over 50 miles per hour, forcing the closings of many entrances on campus out of safety and risk of damage to the doors. The event brought 4 feet to parts of the Tug Hill, a big boost to what has been a slow season for snow accumulations across the region.
Now that's all we have for our newest segment this week, but coming up next we have our weather-wise topic of the week, so don't go away, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Weather-Wise. It's time to break down our Weather-Wise topic of the week.
The first topic we're discussing is Great Lake influences. So did you know that the Great Lakes can affect both weather and climate? Changes in water circulation, temperatures between the water and land, and ice cover can all produce changes in weather patterns along with the Great Lakes behavior and influences.
And with 5 Great Lakes, Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario, these influences stretch across a huge area. One of the major influences on how the lakes affect our weather is dominated by a phenomenon known as specific heat. Specific heat is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a substance 1 degree Celsius. That specific heat of water is much greater than land due to the molecular structure of water. As you can see in the diagram that we have provided for you here, water has what's known as hydrogen bonds. So these are very strong, especially in its liquid state. Heat is generally only released when these bonds are broken. And since water has such strong bonds, that takes some time for that to happen, meaning water retains heat for a much longer time. Air, on the other hand, is mostly made up of nitrogen and oxygen at 71% and 21% respectively. These molecules don't have as strong of bonds, especially in a gaseous state, so they easily release heat. So this is how the lakes stay so warm even into the winter time. Even though the air and land get so cold, it's this temperature contrast that helps to drive lake effect snow, which we covered in depth in an episode last season. Need a refresher? We'll be posting the Weather-Wise topic from that episode later tonight on our social media pages. So be sure to follow us at Weather-Wise WTOP.
Thank you, Liam. Now our next phenomenon we're talking about is caused by lake and land temperature differences, and they are lake and land breezes. This phenomenon also has to do with pressure differences between the lake and the land. So this phenomenon generally occurs with a calm weather pattern with light winds, usually when high pressure is over an area, typically during the morning hours and dissipate in the evening. They also most commonly occur during the spring and summer months. So let's break it down. During the morning hours, the sun is able to heat up the land, which causes this warmer air to rise, creating a pressure gradient between the air over the land and the lake. The rising air above the land then forms lower pressure relative to the higher pressure over the water. Since high pressure always flows towards lower pressure as a rule of thumb, the colder air over the lake rushes over the land to replace the rising air. And this is what we call a lake breeze. Now, a land breeze is really similar in concept, except in this case, the land gets colder, typically during the evening hours, while the lake water is able to remain relatively warmer than the land. Now, this forms higher pressure over the land with lower pressure over the water. So the air flows in the opposite direction towards the lake water and forms the land breeze. Now, some interesting things about this phenomenon are that land breezes are often weaker than lake breezes, as the temperature difference between the lake and land is weaker during the evening hours. And lake breezes can also often spin up thunderstorms by creating enough lift for convection during the summertime.
And sometimes it even helps to enhance some of our lake effect events here, these land breezes that pop up
does.
sometimes. So always a little tricky thing with that lake effect, always something different happening. And the last thing we wanted to talk to you about is ice cover. As you saw earlier, there isn't much of it these days, which is what led to all those houses getting covered in ice on Lake Ontario. Ice cover is well below average across all of the Great Lakes. The most recent ice cover report from GLERL, the Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory, for Lake Superior, the deepest of the lakes, it's not unusual to see minimal ice cover. But for the shallowest lake, Lake Erie, such open waters are unusual this far into winter. This has led to more lake effect snow across the Chautauqua Ridge and in the city of Buffalo. Lake Ontario is also struggling to get ice coverage, though, again, it is one of the deeper lakes, so it's not that unusual. So what you just saw there was actually that lake effect snow map from our most recent event, and that showed some of the heaviest accumulations that were right down there towards the Chautauqua Ridge and up towards the Tug Hill, where some places saw up to 4 feet of snow. And you know what? Speaking of snow, coming up after the break, we'll be tackling this week's weather myth.
Yes, we will.
Can you get sunburn in the wintertime? You'd be surprised how much snow has to do with that.
Yes, so stay tuned and find out. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Weatherwise. Joining us now on the desk is Daniel Hummel.
So Dan, this is your first time here on Weatherwise. So how are you doing?
Great. I could not be any better right now.
That's really awesome. Now it's time to take down a wintertime weather myth. In the segment, we have Weather Myths Debunked.
Now, this myth is something many people don't think about as they spend time outdoors during the winter. We're answering the question, can you still get sunburned in the winter?
The answer is yes. A lot of people tend to forget that just because it gets colder and it starts to snow, the effects of the sun can still be enough to harm your skin.
Now I know what you all are thinking. Who puts sunscreen on in the winter, right? Well, very few people do, but let's break it all down.
So yes, it's true that the sun's rays can be just as harmful to you, even when it's cloudy and cold outside. Potentially any area of your body that's exposed, even when you're all bundled up, can be sunburned. This is due to the sun's ultraviolet or UV rays. There are long and short UV rays. Long UV rays can ultimately cause premature aging, sunspots, and wrinkles on your body and face, while short UV rays can cause reddening of your skin and burns. It's also known that snow and ice are highly reflective of the sun's energy. They reflect up to 80% of the UV rays that reach the ground, according to Skin Cancer Foundation. Although the amount of UV rays that get scattered by the atmosphere or is reflected off the ground decreases in the winter because of the lower sun angle. You are still at risk for sunburn when there is a lot of snow on the ground. Fresh snow is extremely reflective, and it can reflect those UV rays right back up in your face, leading to that winter sunburn.
Now, this is a very real thing because my housemate, who I live with, got sunburnt the other day when he was down by Lake Ontario checking out some of the new ice flows that we have going on down there. So
It's really fascinating how you don't realize how much the sun is reflecting off of the snow, and it can still harm your skin.
oh, trust me, I always realize that when I'm driving down the road and I can't see anything because I forgot my sunglasses and the sun's just blaring at me from the road.
Yeah, so the sun can still sunburn you even if it's not summertime, if you're laying on a beach, so
And it's not just the winter and the summertime, it's every season.
every season.
So make sure you protect your eyes and you protect your skin.
Yeah.
So that's what we have right now for Weather Myths Debunked. We'll be right back coming up after the break. One final look at the weather with meteorologist Dan Hummel.
When you are in space, you can't run down to the store to buy parts. You have to improvise with what you have on your mission. Making is when there is something new that was not in existence at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
It's an incredible sense of accomplishment when you have made something. That's why I make. Now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Good evening and welcome to WTOP 10 Nightly News.
Total, Baldwin faces 32 charges.
Saturday, I went to Woodchuck Saloon.
Too much temperature change.
1310 meteorologist.
2 as well. Visions from Tanner Spink. Go to 2 and 1. 2 with 6 and 10 on the year.
Once there was a boy who did the same thing again and again. One day, he was told he had autism. He got help and slowly learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
welcome back for our final checkup of the weather with meteorologist Dan Hummel. So Dan, we're pretty mild today and rainy. Let's hear about it.
Had a couple rain showers earlier on the day, but those seem to have passed for right now. It's definitely still cloudy out. What to expect? Mild, but we have a mild but very wet start to the week. It's going to be scattered showers starting tomorrow. We got a wintry mix possible coming in on Wednesday. That's something we definitely have to watch. Here is your current temperatures. We got 40s across the board. We got 42 right here into Oswego, 43 in Pulaski. We got mid 40s up in Fulton, and it tends to be generally warmer off to the east. So as we zoom out, we got 46 in Rochester, 47 in Syracuse. We got a hot spot over here in Albany, 57 degrees. And here is your future cast. As you can see, clouds are right now into the area. As we see that rain off to the southwest as it moves into our area. And keeps moving on, and we got some wintry mix moving in after that.
Yep.
So we got, that's...
All right, so that's what we have for tonight's episode of Weatherwise. We hope you enjoyed our first episode of the season. Next week, we'll be taking a trip back to space with a more astronomical topic of the week.
Our next Weatherwise episode won't be airing until March 28th, so don't forget to tune in next time so we can continue